If you're going to wait around for someone to give you a partnership or give you a bonus or give you a raise or give you a position, it's highly unlikely that's going to happen. And one of the things that I'll stress is that be vocal about what you want and don't shy away from it. Ask for what you want. And if that doesn't work, then just get out and do it. Be assertive and put yourself in a position where everybody takes notice that you want to take notice, the important people. And those people that are put in positions of making decisions will see the benefits of what you bring to them. And that'll happen, but only if you ask for it. By the time you're getting ready to get out of high school, you may have a career path that, hey, you know what, I kind of dug mechanical engineering, or I really liked architecture. And so that in and of itself allowed these kids, me included, to really have a affinity for that profession. And of course, there's other inline factors. My dad was a builder, and he was in real estate. So as a kid, especially when I was probably 14, 15 years old, I'd go out to the job site on Saturdays or whenever, and especially during the summer, I was out there probably 2-3 times a week. And I just learned it, and I got to understand it a little bit better. And so by the time it came my turn in high school to be groomed in whatever direction I wanted to go, it was easy for me to get into the mechanical and architectural drafting classes, and that's what started it for me. So I think, and if you have a love of art, I mean, you're already in that mindset. You already have a creative mind, and so
Right.
into art's another vehicle to push you into a design field that could be architecturally related.
That's a huge one. And I'm hearing that over and over again, which is this kind of generation and the ones going forward, they've grown up with computers, they've grown up with CAD, they've grown up with all of these tools. And so almost everybody is saying, go take a step back. If you really appreciate the art, draw, right? Take pencil to paper and really take the time to sketch things, because that's becoming a lost art. It's not quite a lost art, but it's really interesting. I've heard that advice over and over again.
I could shed a lot of light into that subject. And if we're talking about it, if you think it's
Sure.
a great segue to get in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was always into art. I loved to sketch and draw and anything. It didn't matter what it was. I enjoyed it. And to be honest with you, when nowadays, you're right, it's a little bit different because technology has really grown, and it's become such a tool for us to use in a positive way, whether it's Revit modeling or CAD or 3D SketchUp, Rhino. All these things are now available to anybody who can excel in technology, right? The problem is that what I found early on in my career, and what I even see today, the best way to communicate with a client is not through the computer. When you're designing, the passion that you have and the vision that you have inside your head, the best way to convey that to a client, because a client, you have to understand, that it wasn't trained and skilled like we are. So they understand what you're doing, but they don't really understand what it looks like. So you have to be able to convey it to them. So if you're in a meeting and you have the ability to take what's in your head and visualize it and then put it on paper through your sketching ability, you've just made headway with that client, and you've now given him an opportunity to understand what it is that you're trying to propose to him. So he or she will have a much better feel for it, and it solves problems very quickly. It gets you from A to Z much quicker, as opposed to saying, you know what, I hear what you're saying, I know what you want. When the meeting's done, let me go back and I'll work with the guys in the back, and we'll get some 3D modeling for you in a few days. 9 out of 10 times that is not the best direction to go.
Right.
So if you really understand how to sketch and you have the love of sketching, use it to your benefit, by conveying the message and the vision that's in your head, to be able to tell a client, this is what I think you want, and sketch it for them and let them be able to respond to it. I'm telling you, it's a winner 100% of the time. And it's so much more appreciative on the client's end, because
Right.
now you're speaking something that to them that they really understand and can relate to.
Right. That's awesome. That's exactly what we were hoping to hear, is stuff like that. So
I tell everybody that comes out of the universities, and typically we'll hire 2 to 3 every year, students that may have interned with us for maybe 1 or 2 summers. And then once they're graduated, they come back and we hire them. And I will tell you, most of the universities do not at all teach sketching. I mean, it's like you said earlier, it's definitely a lost art. And I try to get them to get away from the computer initially. I try to get them to take the trace paper and a sketch pen and come up with a concept. Let me see how the concept works. Show me what you're thinking. And then once we develop the concept and we have it down, then you can take that hand sketched concept and start to translate it into a computerized model. Okay, that's when the tool starts to really work for you. And what it also does, because you're doing a lot of back and forth. And when you're doing back and forth, it's so easy to just let your hand sketch something, and you don't like it, you put it over there, you sketch another one, you put it over there. If you're doing it on a computer, it's very difficult to see it. And I can see it in how they respond to it. So I try to bring them away and to really get them to understand the importance of hand sketching and the amount of joy they'll end up getting out of it. But it's sometimes a very difficult train. It really is. They're so ingrained into the computer. It's very difficult for them to break away from it.
that is such good advice, and I've heard that echoed. It was literally, so a principal of a design firm said, when we're interviewing somebody, now, I mean, I want to see their finished product. That is important, right? You need to have a portfolio of some time. We need to be able to point to, the projects that you've worked on and the things that you've done, but show me how you got there, right? I want to be able to see the thought process, because that thought process, you can work with somebody who has the right thought process, or if they don't necessarily, you can kind of go, and it's like a math problem, right? It's like, how did you get to the answer? Show me your work. Well, okay, well, here's where you made the mistake.
Exactly.
I love that. That's the type of stuff that I love to hear, because it's not intuitive, I guess. It's not talked about enough, I don't think. But
well, and also, keep in mind, not everybody who goes to architectural school is going to become a designer.
that is
They're
true.
just not. The skill set may not be there. They may not enjoy that process, but they enjoy the technical aspect of architecture. Getting into understanding the code, the technical aspects of it, the constructability of it. How do you put things together, right?
Right.
And so for them, it's really not important for them to learn how to sketch to convey a message, because that's now going to be done by someone else. By the time they get the project, they're going to need to put it into Revit or CAD, and they're going to need to use the technological tools that they have available to them to be able to complete the project. So again, and that goes back to when you get into architecture. We always tell the kids, and I call them kids because they're obviously younger, and anybody younger than me is a kid, right?
It's good. I love it.
We try to let them understand that, look, there are so many different facets of architecture. You can get into urban planning, master planning, interior design, technical side of it, project management. If you're more into managing people, then you become a project manager. You manage the projects, you manage your team, and that's where your strength lies. There's so many different avenues one can take within our profession. That's what I think is so amazing. That and being a doctor or being an attorney, there's so many different ways you can go. And that's what I think, those 3 professions offer anybody. It's like you're not locked into one specific area.
Right. 100%. Are you seeing, I think you said this, and this is what I'm hearing, is fewer students today at university who are taking architecture courses are doing so with the intent of ending up licensed as an architect? Is that?
I don't know if I can say that. The kids that have joined our team over the course of the last, I'm going to say 7 years, virtually all of them are taking their exams. They're diligent about it. They don't want to wait. Back in the day, we would get out and we'd say, you know what, I'm putting the books aside for a few years. I don't want to mess with it. And then you end up getting married, and then now you have kids. It's like, okay, now how am I find time to study, right? Today, what I'm seeing is the young architect is wanting to address that right away. They're passionate about becoming licensed. They want that on their resume. They just spent 5+ years in school. They now want to be able to take that ball and run with it. So we've got 3 right now in our office that are diligently studying, and my hat's off to them. They're very focused. So I see that that's more the norm, at least in our office. Now that may not be the whole, but for us, that's what we see.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. And that actually, I have an example of that in my life. My stepmother was graduated with a degree from Arizona State in architecture, stepped out of the workforce, had my stepbrothers, and by the time she came back, this was in the 90s, so this was like pre-CAD, pre-Revit, right? All these things. By the time she came back, it was a different industry, right? She was starting from scratch, and so she pivoted a little bit. She's got a great career in kind of interior design and furniture and things. But that literally, I mean, it shifted, right? Shifted really quickly.
I'm going to say, let's go back 10 years. 10 years ago is probably about the time that Revit became a lot more of an internalized, technical tool that everybody really started gravitating towards. Prior to that, it was CAD. And so a lot of the people that we're seeing now, that have been in the profession, let's say 25 years and more, they're less inclined to want to go back and be trained on Revit. Okay. And what we've found is that depending on their skill set, we have actually seen maybe you're better off at project management at this point. You can run a project, you can run the meetings, you can run your team, but leave the Revit drafting to the job captain and to the CAD drafters and so on and so forth, the technical people. And then we found that those individuals have prospered. They're still engaged in the work, but yet they're not having to do it. It's not as monotonous for them. They're bouncing from, let's say they're managing 2-3 projects at one time. So it gives them a lot of diversity, and they're not stuck doing one project for 6 months.
Right. That's funny you say that. I literally had that conversation yesterday with an agency owner, and he's probably in his 60s. He's probably kind of around that time to perpetuate the agency. And he said just that, which is, I'm not trained in Revit. So I hire a younger person to come in, and it allows for this dynamic of they get to work individually with me because I need them to be my hands, right? It's like, I'm not going to go learn it. I need them to be my hands and be the person that can make that happen. But it means that we get to work together so closely, it leads to more engagement, and everybody loves, being at that firm. So
absolutely.
I thought that was really cool. I thought that was kind of interesting, an interesting way to kind of play to your strengths, right? And not necessarily try to be a jack of all trades and go back and learn something when you're like, maybe, the math of it just doesn't make sense for me to spend the time. So,
well, and to be honest with you, I look at things a little bit differently. I'm more of, on the design side. So my role in the company is, I'm a partner, I'm an owner, but yet I also oversee the design studio. That's my area. And so I'm engaged with our clients. I'm engaged in every project, the firm puts out. And one of the things that I also try to convey to all of our team members, regardless if they're young students that have just graduated and joining our team, or even some of the seasoned group, efficiency, trying to understand how long it should take to do a certain task and what monetary elements come with that. They don't necessarily understand or see that, but to train them to be efficient and have some expediency and a sense of urgency when they're working on a project has huge benefits to not only our client, but also how we as a firm look at profitability. Okay, and so it's really getting them to understand that there's more than just sitting at a desk and working on a project for however many hours it's been given to you. There needs to be goals set. What's the word I want to use? We want to give them incentive to be able to do their work efficiently, but do it at a faster pace. And so it's a training process that we go through with everybody. So learning how to sketch saves time, but yet get your ideas on paper very quickly. And then you can always transition that obviously to the CAD. But efficiency is really one of the things that we try to build into their mindset.
Gotcha. I like it. Okay. Well, Kevin, we're kind of bouncing around a little bit, if that's all right with you. But
that's all right. Oh, yeah.
If we took a step back and just, can you tell us a little bit about kind of your background? I'm going to combine the first two questions. So a little bit about yourself and your background and what it was that made you want to become an architect.
Well, I grew up in the Midwest, from St. Louis. And my dad, as I mentioned to you earlier, was in real estate, and he built single family houses for several years. And my passion had always been art. So I got the bug at a very early age. And by the time I got into my sophomore, junior year of high school, as we talked about earlier, getting into more of the mechanical and architectural drafting courses kind of set the stage for me. It's something that I really gravitated towards. And before I went into school, my dad would come to me on weekends and say, "Hey, can you draft this floor plan up for me? And can you make some changes for me?" And so that's what started it. And I was like, you know what, I kind of dig this. It's kind of cool. I think I'm going to go in this direction. So that started me down that path. And then my goal was to also grow as an individual, not only within the profession, but also look at what career opportunities there were for me. I never was one to sit there and just do the same thing over and over again. So I needed some diversity. I needed to be able to work with a company or a firm that allowed that promotion ability. So I ended up luckily working for a group out of Houston. I relocated. And from 1980 to 85, I worked out of that studio in Houston, and they decided they were going to open up an office in Newport Beach, California. Through luck, whatever you call it, I was asked to join 3 other members from that office to relocate. It was supposed to be a temporary relocation. I think it was probably 12 months. And of course, that turned into 30 some odd years. I never left. And so through the longevity, and I think that's another thing I'd like to stress to the kids too, and to the students. Today it's very easy to fall disenchanted with your role, your job description, your pay, you're constantly moving. You're never staying stationary in one spot long enough to be able to grow some roots. And with that gives you more responsibility, more accountability, more income capabilities, the opportunity to become a partner, associate partner. It provides a tremendous amount of doorways that you can open. So when I joined this firm and I relocated to Newport Beach, I'd already been with them for 5 years. And long story short, in 2005, and I'd already become an associate partner and a partner in the firm, I went ahead and made an offer to purchase that company, because at the time, we were basically doing all of the work out of California. Houston really wasn't participating in anything at that point, and I thought that was the absolute opportunity for me to make a play for it. And so I went out on the limb and I said, "Hey, I'd like to purchase the company, and what do you guys think?" And they agreed. And so the deal was done. So myself and another individual, my partner, John, we purchased the company in 2005, and we've now had it for 15 years. And to be honest with you, that was the driving force. So I look at things a little differently. I'm more of an entrepreneur. and I run the business as an entrepreneur. So I'm a little bit more fluid, not so much corporate. We look at things a little bit differently, but it really forged in terms of how I look at things and how I perceive my career opportunities and where I want to go. And so I always tell the students and even the young associates that are within our company is that the longer you can stay put in one location, great things will happen. And that depends on if you want to become a partner. If you decide you want to have your own firm, then stay with that company for as long as you think you need to understand and to absorb everything there is to know about running a business. And then you can go out on your own, because they don't teach business in architectural school. So you only learn it by doing it. And so I was very fortunate that the two owners of the firm that I purchased and I'd been with for 20 some odd years, basically they took me under their wing and I learned it. And I wasn't given these positions, I basically took them. And that's the other thing I'd like to say is that if you're going to wait around for someone to give you a partnership or give you a bonus or give you a raise or give you a position, it's highly unlikely that's going to happen. And one of the things that I'll stress is that be vocal about what you want and don't shy away from it. Ask for what you want. And if that doesn't work, then just get out and do it. Be assertive and put yourself in a position where everybody takes notice that you want to take notice, the important people. And those people that are put in positions of making decisions will see the benefits of what you bring to them. And that'll happen, but only if you ask for it.
I love it. Gosh, what you just said in a nutshell is really one of the main points that I hope we get across in all these videos we do, which is anything in this profession is open to you if you're willing to go and work for it, but you have to know what is available to you. And one of a gentleman that I talked to, I think a week ago, said when he finished his master's degree at Harvard, they spoke to you in that program as though you were going to be an owner someday, right? It was a foregone conclusion. We just talked to you like, this is what you're going to do, right? And he was proud of that and happy that they did that, because he maybe didn't have the mindset before then that he could do something like you're talking about, that he couldn't be, entrepreneur. He was a designer, he was an artist, right? Not necessarily thinking of himself as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
But in all reality, you can be both, right? I mean, you're kind of living proof of that. 100%. And I don't know. I've heard kind of mixed reviews on whether or not the feeling of this generation coming up that they're willing to go kind of do that, put in that work and maybe go out and be aggressive and get what they want as far as like owning a business and being on the business side of architecture. So
I'm seeing that. I think and that can be a whole different conversation,
right?
we're not seeing individuals wanting to take that really strong leadership role. And frankly, we're seeing a lack of it within the office at times, where we're wanting them and we're giving them the tools and we're saying, we want you to be more assertive in your management skills. We want you to be able to, if you're going to go to the next level, you have to manage people. You have to be put in a position to where you want to share your information that you have, the knowledge that you have, but you have to tutor and you have to mentor and you have to manage. And when I say that, and I don't like to use the word have to, it's a choice. But if you want to have a position that's commensurate with your salary level, you have to get into more management positions or ownership positions. And we don't necessarily see as much of that as we have in the past. I think the mindset's a little bit different. So it's something that we're seeing, and I don't know if it's a long-term trend or if it's a short.
Yeah, that's something that I think we're going to try to figure out a way to address that at the foundation in terms of leadership courses. That's kind of next on the list.
Because are you doing the same things?
Yeah, we are. We're seeing the same things, and So I don't know if it's a generational thing. I don't know if it's just, the information's just not available. I don't know what it is, but
Mhm.
I feel like there's a way to be able to offer that, right? But it is a choice. Somebody has to want to do it. I feel like if somebody's thrust in the leadership and they don't want it, it's just not going to go well, right? It's like you
Well, one
gotta.
thing I'm finding is that the talent that we are seeing coming out of the schools is spectacular.
Mhm.
Their skill set, especially as it relates to the technological aspect of it, is amazing, off the charts. What we're not seeing is more of an assertive approach to getting things done. They're constantly wanting you to do it for them. Case in point, if they're working on a code related issue, they always want to go to the senior level person to say, well, I don't understand, can you do this for me? And the senior level person is going to say, well, have you looked at the code? No. Well, why don't you start there? Why don't you read the code? You come back and tell me how you discern what the code says, and then we can have a conversation about it. There's no sense in me doing it for you because you're not going to learn. So it's that mindset, getting them to understand that, hey, I have to go the extra mile or the extra step to be able to do my job and to be able to show my supervisors that I'm capable of taking on more responsibility.
Right. Incredibly valuable. I love it. Okay, if we combine the next few questions here, what on a day-to-day basis, just kind of in the typical day in the life of, what is one of the favorite parts of your job, and then flip that, what is one of the hardest parts or biggest challenges that you have to deal with every day?
I'm going to start off with the easy question, easy answer to that question first. I enjoy every aspect of what I do. I'm passionate about it, whether it's running the business, whether it's getting involved with, business development, the marketing aspect, which I'm involved with, or the design. All of it encompasses a skill set that I absolutely enjoy delving into. So that part of it, I absolutely am thrilled with. I love it. I wake up every day and I'm excited about what I do. The part that is never the best or the most desirable is having to deal with very difficult clients, having to deal with contractual legal issues. But it's the part of running a business that you can't shy away from. It's something that is hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. So I would say that the challenges of working with clients sometimes is there. But then you can balance that out and say, for every difficult client we have, we've got amazing clients, and we've got clients that are fun to be with. I mean, it's either or, right? You get
Right.
both.
Right.
But as a whole, I mean, having the opportunity to run your own business, be able to make your own decisions, be able to give back to communities that we're involved in. We do a lot of work in urban areas, and to be able to participate within the needs of a community and provide quality housing and hospitality projects. I absolutely love it. If you ask me what's your favorite project that I've ever designed, they're all favorite. To be honest with you, because each one of them has a very specific need that was provided, and I don't get bored of it at all.
Right.
That from that standpoint, I love
Have
it.
you found, in terms of client selection, right? So, I mean, one of the benefits of being, principal and owner is you do get the ultimate say on whether or not you want to work with a client. Do you find that you gravitate towards, is it like a repeat client, just somebody you really enjoy working with over and over again, or are you always out there finding new people and the new projects are coming from new clients?
Well, one of the things that I've always stressed is diversification, whether it's your client base or whether it's the work that you do. We started out doing both single family and multifamily housing years ago. We gravitated away from single family and maintained our impact in the multifamily world in that sector. And then over the years, that's gravitated and diversified into hospitality. We're now doing 4- and 5-star hotels. We're pushing the envelope into the retail sector now. And as you look at what's going on today, it's probably, not the best sector, but we're seeing movement in it, frankly. We're also opening up offices in New York. We've got our El Segundo office, and we also are getting ready to open up a Seattle branch.
Awesome.
All during COVID. These are all moves that we've made over the course of the last 6 to 7 months to continue being diverse and looking at different ways to to express ourselves. And I think that that's really key and very, very important. What was the other part of the question? Because I may have lost it.
It was actually, I think it was just about that, which is the diversification of clients. Because
yeah, that was the one I wanted to address. Early on in one's career, I think, especially if you're going out on your own, I mean, once you have gravitated to that point in your life that you're running your own company and you're young, let's say you're in your early to mid 30s, and architects typically don't mature until they get into their mid 30s. And that's when the maturity part starts, because that's when you get your expertise, right? You don't necessarily have much of a choice at that stage in your career. You're going to have to work with everybody because you're trying to build your brand, right? And so you're going to take on work regardless of where it's coming from. And over the years, you're going to find that, this group is great to work with. This group I struggle with. We lost money. They're not fun to work with. They're demanding, and they're not appreciative of all those things that we provide you, blah, blah, blah. And so as you get older and you're more seasoned in your business and you have a defined direction that you want to take the company, then you can have a little bit more of a say in terms of who you think you'd like to work with, what clients are more conducive to your work or your personality or whatever it might be. And I think that gives you more of a selective opportunity, but not so much in your early days. I think you got to work for every dollar. You got to work for your brand. And once it's established, then you have carte blanche to do pretty much whatever you want to do.
Gotcha. That's a great answer. That one, I was hoping, I have a lot of clients that are in that 30 to 35-year-old range who have gone out on their own. And the ones that didn't diversify are in more than a little bit of trouble right now, right? If you only did one type of work, and if you only had 1 or 2 clients who was bringing you that type of work, and the economy shifts the way that it is and the way that it's looking like I'm hearing a lot of questions right now. And one of the things that we might be able to do is, luckily we have a network. So if you maybe went out and tried it on your own and it's not working right now, we can hopefully get you back to, a firm that is larger, that is hiring. But that's always a concern, right? That, when you're not diversified and you don't know where your next project's coming from.
I think we learned that long time ago. We were specifically multifamily, and we didn't diverse ourselves, and our client base. We had several clients that give us 4, 5, 6 projects a year. Well, when the recession hit, we lost everything. I mean, we literally went from 67 people down to 3 within about an 18-month period. And a lot of that was because we had 2 or 3 clients. That was probably 35% of our work. 30% of our work was coming from those 3 or 4 clients. And so we learned a lesson. I learned a lesson at that point that when we got out of the recession, my mindset was, hey, we have to get as many different new clients as we can and hang on to all the ones that you can, because the marketing effort that you put in to get one client, the amount of time and effort that you put in is exorbitant. And then you can't afford to lose them. So you want to make sure you retain them, but you still want to go out and continue to get new clients. And you want to diversify into different typologies that are consistent with what you do. We do mixed use. So to me, it was a natural progression to go from mixed use multifamily into hospitality, because a lot of the synergies are exactly the same. They cohabitate with one another. We do mixed use. So at the ground floor, we've got retail. So now the question is, we provide the core and shell, but we never did the interiors. So now we're doing retail interiors, and we've branded into that, or we've gone into that sector. And so again, I think, the sector that you might be in, look at ways to diversify that sector for you and what that means. If you do commercial buildings, you might be able to get into storage facilities right now, because storage facilities are huge.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an opportunity. So that's another avenue that you may not have thought was big for you, but now it is. So it's something that somebody who does industrial work or commercial work might gravitate to. So again, I just think you look at what you're comfortable in, and that's the other thing I'm going to say: get out of your comfort zone right now. Just get the hell out of it. Push yourself into a different area and enjoy it, because you're going to find that once you open the door, you're going to say, wow, how come I didn't do that 2 years ago or 3 years ago? I actually like this. You may not have done it because you're uncomfortable. And the beauty about architecture is that the doors are there. You just have to open the damn thing and just go through it, and don't even look back. Enjoy it.
Great advice. Oh, I love it. All right, 2 more questions for you, Kevin. We'll let you go. Who are some leaders in architecture that you admire, or some that have inspired you in some way?
Well, that's a great question too. I would say, and because I'm not going to do the whole cliche thing that Richard Meyer. I'm not going to label architects, because that's not what typically inspired me. What inspired me were the 2 former partners that owned the company that I started working for in Houston. One was very, very much involved in running the business, and even though he had a design background, he ran the business, and we were a 102-man firm at the time, so very business-minded, entrepreneurial. His partner was the design partner, and he didn't get much involved in the business side of it, but he ran the design. I mean, there was 15 of us in the design studio, 20 of us, and he was the catalyst for creation and pushing the envelope on creativity. But they both played off of one another really, really well. And as I spent 20 some odd years with them, I learned from both of them, and they became my inspiration in terms of how I look to run my business. Now, I don't do it exactly the same way that they did back then, but I use a lot of the tools that they taught me to be able to take the company and to be able to look at diversification, and to be able to think outside the box, and always, always, always pushing the envelope, and being able to run the business as a business so you're also profitable. Architects historically don't run businesses quite well, but I had the good fortune of being with 2 people that I learned the design side from, and I learned how to run the business from. So I would say those 2 would be my mentors, the people that I look to, because they shaped me in terms of who I am and gave me the confidence to be able to forge ahead and have the nerve to go ask them, hey, I want to buy a company. How do you feel about that? Are you good with it? Because my other option was, if they said no, then I'm going to leave the company and I'm going to go off and I'm going to start my own. And it turned out really great. And so I would say those 2 were my inspiration. That's who I look up to.
Love it. Great answer. All right, last one for you here. What is the best advice that you could give to one of our students, potentially an up and coming design professional?
Wow. Always look to the future, be positive, have confidence in your abilities. And if you don't know something, ask the question, learn it, and continue to perfect it to the best of your ability.
That's really important. Can you elaborate on that just a little bit more? I've heard that a couple times, which is, especially in the younger generation, and I don't know why that is, there's maybe a hesitancy to bring a problem, or to say I don't know, or to just be able to come to leadership and ask for help, and maybe not in the way you're talking about, which is like, hey, can you do this for me, right? We talked about that, but hey, I don't know this. I'm willing to put the time in. Can you direct me in a way?
I think communication has taken a back seat. we're dealing with a generation today that doesn't have a lot of patience. They don't communicate very well. They have a tendency to be on this all the time. That's how they communicate, text messaging. And we see it in our office all the time. Instead of engaging with your peer group, we see a lot of them, if not all of them, with headsets on, like you. But they're working, they're listening to music and tunes, and I'm thinking, how can you possibly communicate and create a collaborative mindset and an environment that really focuses on gaining knowledge and working with your peer group? It's virtually non-existent. It really, really is. And a lot of the time they are quiet. They don't ask questions. They don't ask for what they want. And so for anybody out there that's going to listen to what I'm saying, you must create a road for yourself. And that road is created by being able to communicate. You have to express yourself. And that's what architects do. Whether it's through your hand skills or your ability to verbalize, you have to communicate. I can't stress that anymore. And it goes back to everything we've talked about. Whatever you want to accomplish in this profession or any profession, you have to be able to communicate with people. You're going to need to want to do that. Otherwise, you isolate yourself and you're not part of the culture or the team.
Perfect. Awesome. Hey, that's a great.
I hope that answered the question.
Absolutely, it did. That's a great place to leave it. Kevin, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time and your wisdom. I'm going to go ahead and end this right here.